Okay. Maybe the phone will not move.
I didn't go to bed at 7 o'clock this morning.
So that's why you woke up at like 2.
Yep.
There we go. I do not have a Solomon Porch Podcast t-shirt on, but it'll be okay. It'll be okay. 1, 2. Well, my mic sounds like that. I feel like every time we have a guest, my mic always acts weird. Every time, hello, hello. And I cannot figure it out. Okay.
I suppose it's just the channel?
I don't know. I usually I don't change my channel. I just
No, but I mean because we've got another line coming in, it somehow makes your channel go wonky.
I'm not a professional producer. I'm a wannabe amateur.
You're not even a ones and twos kind of guy?
I'm not a ones and twos kind of guy. Cool. So we ready?
Yes, sir.
Are we good? Let me share the live stream. Well, I'll do that as we start going. So.
Whatever you say, Joseph.
Welcome back to the Solomon's Porch Podcast with your host Jason
and Sean.
And we have a special guest on the show with us this week.
Hey.
We've had him on the show before. We have, and I'm gonna say it right this time, Mitch Darrell.
Hey, you got it right. 6 months.
Yeah, man. How's it going, bro?
Pretty good, man. Nice.
Dude, it's been 6 months?
I know the last time I was here, I was working at my other job, and so it's been at least 5 months.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's been a little while, so, but it's all good, man. It's good to have you back on the porch, and it's gonna be good, man. So you have a new project we're gonna talk about. What's coming out in a couple months,
Yes, sir.
and so we're gonna discuss that in a little bit here. But yeah, man. Just want to announce that since the last time we did the show, we got our first Patreon supporter.
And technically it was in 2018, so that means that we actually hit one of our goals.
We did hit the goal.
So that's awesome.
One of the goals last year was to get our first sponsorship somehow, some form, some shape, revenue coming in the show. And so technically next month we'll be in the positive.
Yeah.
Technically because
will we be in the positive, or will it just be less of a negative?
It'll be less of a negative.
It'll be less of a
negative. But yeah, so we got that going on. And another set of big news, it was kind of officially announced to the staff over at Trackstars, but we are officially joining the Trackstars Podcasting Network.
Yeah.
And so we're in the works of getting the show kind of transferred to the new platform over there. Still going to be available everywhere but SoundCloud. So if you listen to the show via SoundCloud, I apologize.
Switch over.
Go check it over on Google Play, iTunes, the Trackstars. You can listen to it on their actual app or the website. And so yeah, a lot of cool things coming up this year in 2019. And so yeah, man. So let's kind of go on. Beginning of the year. How did the beginning of the year start off for you?
I was throwing up and had lots of diarrhea.
Oh,
so
man.
That's awesome. That's a lot of
yeah,
partying.
that's how I rung in the new year.
That's a lot of
So,
partying.
and I think the saying goes that whatever it is that you do as the new year rings in is kind of what's indicative of your year. So I'm gonna have a really well, I won't even say it, but yeah, you can guess. So
I can't guess. Please explain.
It's gonna be a fantabulous year.
Please explain. I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'll be full of.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So yeah, Mitch, how about you, man?
I spent New Year's Eve watching NC State lose their bowl game terribly to Texas A&M.
And you're from NC State, right?
Yes, I graduated in May. So,
awesome.
Yeah, it is kind of awesome. From a sports perspective, it's kind of depressing.
Well, yeah. No, I meant awesome that you're graduating.
Yeah, for sure. Other than that, I'm just trying to find full-time work, but enjoying working at Target, and hopefully 2019 brings me another job.
and working on your craft at the same time. So yeah, very cool.
Yeah, man. So we are going to talk about the new album here in a little bit. And today we are going to be continuing our newest segment, Who versus Who. Yeah. We got a lot of interaction on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter in regards to suggestions, and thank you everybody who made suggestions. We appreciate that. And but this week we specifically, I figured since we had Mitch coming to the show, because of his I guess entertainment hobbies, his new album coming out soon. and Sean being a huge Star Wars fan.
It's okay. You can say obsession.
Honestly.
Okay, with their obsessions with Star Wars, I thought it'd be interesting to do a who versus who with Star Wars characters.
Yeah.
So it's going to be Rey and Jyn, or we'll talk about that later. Y'all can clarify specifically
We'll do that.
what that even means.
Okay.
But anyway, man. So a huge story happened 2 weeks ago, I think it was. What was it, about 2 weeks ago? There was a young wrestler who was forced to cut off his dreads before a wrestling match.
Yeah.
And
because the referee said that his hair was an obstacle.
I don't know.
Which he, my understanding is that he had some sort of covering to be able to hold his dreads back. And we're not even talking like long dreads. I mean,
they weren't that long.
They were about maybe Mitch's, if not even maybe a tad shorter. So it wasn't like it was, he wasn't all Rasta on him or something like that. But so they actually got video of this poor kid, and some lady coming up and cutting his hair off just so he could wrestle. I think he won the match, but
yes,
probably because I'm not saying just because.
He was a little bit ticked off. You saying?
But,
yeah.
I feel like anybody who watched that probably should have felt the same way he felt, and if they didn't, then they're probably just straight racist. And I don't know, man, Mitch, would you have cut your dreads?
That's so crazy. So I always say that my dreads are very important to me. They kind of represent like a shift in my life and happiness and a bunch of things. And not to mention they just take a long time and a lot of maintaining, a lot of money goes into them. But obviously he wanted to wrestle, and that's something he's good at. I always wonder if I would cut my hair for my music or for a girl, or after I did my sermon, someone was talking to me about maybe doing something about Samson and comparing and seeing like what are you willing to maybe give up for God potentially. So like if I had to cut my hair to be a better Christian somehow, in that situation, it's hard. I'm inclined to say that I wouldn't have done it. I would have argued because it doesn't seem like he needed to. Like there wasn't a rule in a book that said. I would have just kept arguing, saying like, you don't have the authority to tell me I have to do this to compete. But the fact that he did it shows that it meant that much to him, and he won. So.
Yeah, and for me, I think personally, I would have just either I wouldn't have wrestled, I just would have not done that match, or I would have tried to find somebody else who was in charge and say, look, give me a different referee.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, because there's more than, I don't know, I haven't been to I've been to scrimmages and stuff where there's multiple referees, but I think with the main wrestling events, they only have one, but I feel like there's probably at least one more referee.
Right.
I don't know, there's somebody should have been there above the referee's authoritative level to go to.
I've been to other sporting events and like small time stuff, and sometimes that's the only person there. And so, who would be over them is not somebody that would be on site.
Yeah, I would have not.
Speaking. So yeah, no, I wouldn't have either, man. I would have cussed him out and raised some Cain and took down Abel and yards. So.
And if you weren't a Christian, it would have been a whole lot worse.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's today's Sean.
Sure.
That's today's
Sorry.
Sean. So,
did I say that out loud? Inside thoughts.
Yeah, man. But anyway, it was just completely ridiculous, and I thought we kind of wanted to bring it up on the show, mainly because I feel like it's something that I heard. I've heard it before, but I heard Eminem say in his last interview where he was saying, I can't remember who told him. He said, but silence is the same as condoning.
Yeah.
And so having two white guys officially were white people who were speaking out against this stupid foolishness. And so we were definitely on the side of the wrestler because that's completely retarded. And
now, I would totally get it if there was some other kind of, bylaw, statute, rule, whatever that was predetermined, pre-established, and he knew about it beforehand, and he just refused to. Okay, that would be a different story. I can maybe understand that. But that's not my understanding of the situation. So.
Right. So anyway, we're going to skip the whole stupid government shutdown because of the wall. We're not even going to talk about that today because we don't have enough time to talk about that foolishness. But there was some more foolishness that you wanted to bring up.
Yeah. So local McDonald's here in North Carolina had a young man who went on his break, his 15-minute break, and he went out into the lobby area, out into the dining room, which they're allowed to do. And there was a customer there that he kind of knew, and he was reading a book about God and relationships and that sort of thing. And so they engaged in a conversation. He sat down with them, and they had a conversation there in the dining room. And it wasn't that they were loud, they weren't obscene, they weren't bashing anybody. It was just that they were having a conversation about having a relationship with God. Now, this young man is pretty new in his faith, and so he's still trying to feel out things and what have you. And he's had a pretty rough background. He has an ankle bracelet, and but he's been doing a really great job working at this McDonald's. I mean, even the local manager said that he thought that it was probably management material, and he was working in that vein. But a customer in the dining room came up and complained that she felt uncomfortable in this dining room with this conversation taking place. Mind you that this McDonald's plays Christian music.
Right.
Okay.
Most restaurants around here play Christian music, just out of default.
Yeah, Bible Belt, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they're playing Christian music, but this is what she complains about is this kid's conversation. And so management decides that they're going to fire him because of it. Just fire him.
That's nuts.
So
Again, probably no bylaws, nothing written down saying you couldn't talk about something on your break.
yeah,
But-
and the district manager, or the owner rather, I think it was, came back and said, hey, actually you need to hire him back, maybe just make it like a short suspension kind of thing or something. But the kid has definitely decided that there ain't no point in me going back, so I guess he effectively has quit. But it's a little more than just a lot jacked up. I mean, why are we going to such extremes to be able to push whatever specific agendas we have? If there were a gay and lesbian couple, gay or lesbian couple, sitting in the dining room having a conversation about politics, okay, I might not agree with it, I might not like it, I might totally agree with them as well, but, it's no reason, even if they are an employee of McDonald's.
Right.
There are people that I know that work at restaurants, at fast food joints, that frankly probably don't exude what I would think that any professional in any kind of manner should look like. I'm a little old school, so if you've got tattoos going all the way down your arms and you've got 100 different piercings, but you're working at McDonald's, you probably need to pull some out, you need to wear some long sleeves, that sort of thing. You need to be a little more conservative. If you're working at Flaming Amy's Asian Bowl Restaurant in Wilmington downtown, okay, yeah, go for it. Piercings, I mean, that's the ambiance there, right?
Why? Why there?
Because that's the ambiance.
Okay.
That's the style.
I was just thinking, not everybody knows what that is.
Right, but anyway,
Gotcha.
If you walk into Mellow Mushroom, okay, Mellow Mushroom's a little more popular around here.
Yeah.
That's something that it's a little more alternative. I get it that maybe that's how you're dressed and how you look. Totally cool with that. I don't have a personal problem with it, but my grandparents walk into McDonald's and have coffee in the morning, sort of thing. So you need to be a little more considerate. They're not going to walk into Mellow Mushroom and get a pizza. But anyway, just the point is that when you're talking about people and what they're putting off, how they look and what it is that they're communicating, you either draw lines or you don't. And if you're going to start being flexible on stuff, then you really need to be pretty flexible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it'd be different if the guy was standing behind the counter talking about it.
Right.
But anyway.
Yeah. I mean, you're on your break. There's people that's on phone calls all the time, and I'm sitting there like, they're on their break, and
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, they're cussing out their mom, or they're, telling their whatever they're going to beat somebody up, or they're, I don't know, stuff like that. And I'm just, I'd rather hear somebody talk about a religion, quote religion, I didn't agree with, than see him outside smoking a cigarette.
Right.
Like,
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and if I'm in the restaurant with my kid, and somebody cussing up a storm versus somebody talking about their Muslim faith, I'd rather that they be talking about their Muslim faith. I might not agree with that, but I would rather that it be that than some obscene words and graphic language going on. So.
right? Yeah, I agree.
Anyway,
So
I'm
that's
upset
the
about
local
that. So hey, if you live in the area, the McDonald's on Highway 70, boycott them. So anyway, hey, you saw Aquaman, didn't you?
I did, and I don't even know if I actually told you. I actually did. I think I did something I didn't even tell Sean I did it. So I did a podcast recording.
Okay.
I called it a one shot.
Right, yeah.
Just play with it. Aquaman review.
Well, I don't know if you told me, but I did see it. Yeah.
Okay. So essentially, I was thinking if we want to spend a little bit of extra time breaking down a movie or something, we just do a one shot podcast recording. So when episode 9 comes out this year, you can share your more informed thoughts on it in an actual separate recording.
So
possibly.
can your computer hold that much data? I mean,
I think it could.
About 5-6 hours.
Well, we probably need to cut it down to like maybe 15, 20 minutes. So.
Is that possible?
15, 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, if Mitch was here, it probably would need to be like 17 hours.
Yeah, to be honest.
Because you'd have to go back and forth and back and forth. And I'm sitting here and have to get clarification on what this means.
I don't know. I think we agree on a lot of stuff. It'd probably
so
be a
too.
little bit shorter. Yeah.
Well, what I mean is just discussing things, and he toss something up and you toss something up, and it just be like back and forth,
Like volleyball.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So anyway, 2 cents. Neither one of y'all have seen it.
Yeah, so just 2 cents.
So 2 cents. I thought it was a very decent film. In my opinion, it's the best DC EU film.
Oh, better than Wonder Woman.
I think it was better than Wonder Woman myself. And like I said, you can listen to the podcast to go into detail, a spoilery podcast, and it has it's very similar to Black Panther and Thor.
Okay.
Black Panther in Hidden City, nobody really knows if it exists.
Right.
Somebody has been there and has technology from it at some point. And so, there's a lot of similarities, and then the brother fighting, half-breed. There's a bunch of stuff there. And so, I kind of pointed that stuff out. I will say this, though. So somebody shot me a video of this lady, and she's got a lot of followers on YouTube. And it's like her and this guy were breaking down, like, the demonic things in it, the occult, and the anti-Christian things, and this, that, and the other. And I was like, yeah, my reviews aren't going to be like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to be bringing out the Christian topics you can pull out of it to use as discipling tools instead of just, because everything is somewhat anti-Christ.
Right.
Because there's a lot of things that's against the Christian belief, and anything against biblical truth is anti-Christ.
Right.
It just is. So, I mean, I won't say a lot of the presidential stuff is anti-Christ, but, I mean, you get what I'm saying.
Right.
But, anyway, the film was good. It kind of set it up for a sequel. It's definitely going to get a sequel because it's probably around like 800 mil now. They're saying it's definitely going to hit $1 billion, and which is probably going to be their highest grossing film in the DCEU. And so
Bigger than Justice League?
oh yeah,
Bigger than Batman versus Superman?
Yeah.
now you're just joking. But Jason Momoa did a good job.
Well, of course.
I mean, great in my opinion. If you don't know anything about Aquaman, it really works. Even if you do, I mean, I've read a little bit, and it doesn't feel too far off. I will say a couple of the jokes feel just a little forced, but it's almost like that in a lot of films. Thor Ragnarok had a lot of forced humor in it. A lot of forced humor.
Wow.
But overall, it was good. I wouldn't mind seeing it again
see
in theaters. I would recommend going and seeing it, and going there, kind of open-minded. I mean, don't go in there with certain expectations, or you're going to have negative thoughts. So, anyway,
that was my argument with Justice League and Batman vs Superman too. Just be a little more open-minded, and you'll be all right.
well, Batman vs Superman. Though the problem with Justice League and Batman vs Superman is they cut so much of the film and they reshot so much of the film. You didn't get the full story. You got pieces and missing pieces.
Okay.
Suicide Squad, same way. Anyway,
All right,
we're not going to jump into that. So I
Moving
wanted to
on.
kind of discuss Bible in a Year. I did the Bible in a Year plan last year. We did an episode at the beginning of the year talking about reasons to do it, to not do it. Have you ever done one of those?
I think when I was in high school, I started and I ended up fizzling out.
Okay.
That is something I want to do.
Okay. Well, just in case anybody is interested, I do have a group on the YouVersion app doing it. We're on day 5. I started January 1st just to make it a little bit easier for whatever reason that might be. And so hit me up. I'll shoot you a link to it. I mean, you can still kind of catch up gradually if you want to. And then you can discuss at the end of every day's readings, like thoughts and share opinions and, things that you like, whatever. But I
And
didn't.
so far, we're getting a lot of feedback on that.
We really are. Because Sean's a part of that, and Sean and myself and some other people, some listeners of the podcast are on there as well. So, but I kind of want to just review my thoughts of doing it, last year, starting it again this year. The reason why I think it's good to do it. A lot of people are like, you shouldn't do that. You can't really fully digest all of it, and it's just yada yada yada. I'm like, no, you're not going to read all of it and figure it all out. And it's not a study plan.
Right.
It's a reading plan. It's almost like dedicating yourself 15-20 minutes a day to spend with your spouse. Like just being with them and making it a point to do that. And so for me, and yes, I do side study for myself. Study. We're finishing up the Book of Genesis and the personal Bible study that we're in. And so you do need to do deeper study, but I don't understand why people are like, no, you shouldn't read the Bible like that. And I've actually heard people say you should not do it.
Well, and the YouVersion devotional that accompanies that kind of digs into the scriptures as well.
It does.
So, I mean, even if you wanted to make the argument, it does dig in some. So it doesn't just leave you all high and dry. Okay, I've read it and I don't remember what I read. It does have an accompaniment devotional. Now, I will say this: I've only read some of the devotionals. Because, dude, man, they're like
I don't read them.
Ridiculously long.
I don't read them.
And I'm not entirely, I'm not 100% on board with exactly what's being taught. So, I'm doing the plan as, like you were saying, to be able to read. It's just a reading plan.
Yeah.
And then that way, and through that, actually, I'm refreshed on things and go, oh, yeah, dude, I forgot about
this
that,
story.
right?
Yeah.
And, but then I do my deeper study in areas and from teachers that I trust and know and that, where I know that I'm getting the food that I need to be getting. So,
Right.
anyway.
Anyways, I mean, I do recommend it.
Plus, I have like 2 other devotionals that I'm reading. So.
Yeah, man. So anyway, moving along. So you found a show that's airing on TBS.
Yeah. So it comes out in February 12th, and it's called Miracle Workers. And Steve Buscemi, I think I said that right. I mean, he's done just lots of different stuff. Plays God. His character is God. And he is, he's comedic anyway. That's just kind of the way he is as an actor. And Daniel Radcliffe from the Harry Potter movies is an angel. And there are a whole host of other angels that are within the show. But his job is that he's supposed to be answering prayers. So Daniel Radcliffe's character is in this sort of mailroom kind of thing. And he's trying to keep up with this onslaught of prayers. And so, anyway, I'm not real sure how I feel about it. I think I'm probably going to try to watch some of it. One, because it's funny.
I may. We got to review it too. I mean, just,
Yeah, and I get, the thing is for me is that I'm okay with laughing at myself.
Yeah.
There's a difference between making fun of versus laughing at yourself.
Right.
What was that stupid movie that had Mandy Moore in it, and she was like a Christian?
Was it Saved? Was that
It was Saved.
Okay.
That was making fun of Christians.
Okay.
And,
Even though she's played a lot of Christian roles in Christian movies, which is weird.
Yeah. Well, anyway. So, but yeah, so that movie was really making fun of Christianity.
Gotcha.
And so it was a little more pointed, whereas this seems more like, let's sit back and just ponder something silly, if you will. And I'm largely okay with that. I like the idea. I think so. It's going to be about execution.
I think I'm okay with the angel aspect of it. The way it kind of seems to be portraying God does bother me just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
He's like, I mean, I don't know. It's just
he
really
seems sort of senile,
like very.
stupid.
I'm like, don't. Yeah,
like
don't do that.
I really am a huge fan of Seth MacFarlane shows. Like I like Family Guy a lot, but there's a lot of episodes where I end up having to skip because they make fun of Jesus a lot.
I've never watched it. I've never watched.
It's probably a good thing. It's kind of like a guilty pleasure of mine because it's got a lot of like intelligent humor.
Me too.
But a lot of the there's a lot of Jesus jokes in both American Dad and Family Guy, and God ones. It's because Seth MacFarlane's he's an atheist, admittedly.
Right,
and I'm just kind of like, it's not like it goes way further than what you were saying than just like kind of he's really like taking shots at like.
Oh yeah, he's being very deliberate about it.
Now,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that the creators of South Park, Trey Parker, Matt Stone, I think is their names. I heard that they were Mormon. That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true, but they created a movie, a very bad movie, and in that movie they had one of the creators played a Mormon guy, but and people were saying if you got to be able to laugh at your show like you said, and so for me it was like I kind of understand that, but again there's certain lines that I feel like have to be drawn,
Sure,
and the way they kind of treated what looks like they're treating God.
right.
For me, that's just a little too much. And but that's I haven't seen it yet. It could just be bad. It could be bad trailers.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. I think it's going to be worth at least exploring the first couple of episodes or so. I wasn't fond of Lucifer because it really kind of glorified him, made him seem a lot more human and
right.
more relational kind of thing. Somebody that you could actually buddy up to. He wasn't such a bad kind of guy sort
That's
of thing.
The cult.
Yeah. So whatever.
It's the occult.
And God friended me. Not my thing either.
I've seen
it.
trailers. I've wondered about watching it. But you're not a fan?
Yeah, it's it's just one
How
of those
many episodes
things
did you
where
watch?
I can't even say that I've watched a full episode.
You gotta watch at least a full episode before you give any kind of.
Yeah, I well look, if it doesn't draw me in that well, then it's.
Yeah.
I get somebody struggling with their faith and that sort of thing, and so I guess that's where it just sort of lost me. I don't think it's good writing. I think it's execution partially as well.
Okay.
So, anyway.
Gotcha.
But so Miracle Workers on TBS starting in February. Give us your guys' thoughts. I'd like to know what you think about it and whether this is heresy, if it's okay to laugh at yourself this way, or if we're just mocking God. So let us know what you think. And now on to music news.
Good.
Oh yeah, it's me. Sorry,
Yeah.
I forgot. Yeah. Apologetix has 2 new singles. Eve Looks Back, which is a parody of Landslide by Fleetwood Mac, one of my favorite songs. And Jewish Farm, which is a parody of Junior's Farm by Paul McCartney and Wings. I actually was not familiar with the Paul McCartney song to begin with, so hearing the parody was kind of like, okay.
Who's Paul McCartney?
Beatles.
I used to play with Beatles.
Yeah, he was the bass player.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. Anyway,
For
moving
a
along.
band called the Beatles.
Move along.
Okay. I liked Ant's Life.
Demon Hunter.
Bug's Life. That was good.
Demon Hunters, War and Peace albums will release in March, I believe March 1st. Pre-order is now. So if you like the exclusive merch, they've got some really pretty cool looking stuff. So far we're not real crazy with the one song that's released off of Peace. I think it's Peace.
Well, they have one on both that's released.
And so, you know, it remains to be seen. But we will give, or at least I will give, a more in-depth review once it does release. So
Yeah, I think the single from War was actually pretty good.
yeah,
I actually kind of enjoyed that better. The one from Peace is just, I didn't like it at all. But apparently that's the one that's hitting all the Spotify playlists.
it is,
So.
and I think the thing is that you know, the two albums are respectively named the way they are based on the music that's going to be on each one of them,
Right.
which makes sense. But the song off Peace is just not. It's not that it's soft. It just doesn't sound good.
No,
I don't
it
even
don't.
think that the singing sounds up to par with Ryan Clark's normal, more mellow stuff. So.
And I love Demon
Anyway.
Hunter's mellow music, but that song
I know,
for me
you're
was just
softy.
like, I am a softie.
Yeah.
I'll
But
admit it.
yeah, but anyway, but we'll get more
Yeah.
more in depth later when the whole album comes out, so that way we can address it as a whole project. But speaking of Demon Hunter, also Project 86 is doing this. They're doing exclusive subscription services. Have you seen this stuff?
Yeah, I actually have.
So, you know, if you're wanting like special videos that are coming out, they're even doing like
You can buy special merch.
yeah, that's only available and through, you know, this. It's a new version of the fan club, I guess.
I mean,
is
it
really
kinda
what
is.
boils
It's-
down to.
It's almost their Patreon type of thing, because Patreon, a lot of people do a Patreon too.
Right.
It's like they have certain music, like they'll release a song that only their Patreon supporters can listen to,
Right.
or
Right.
they'll get access to, or it'll be sent to them free downloads.
Right.
So like KJ52 does it, Belief from Belief in Fatherhood does it, and a lot of people are doing it.
And Joseph Clay used to do some of that same sort of stuff with their fan club. Is that, you know, albums that you could only get from them. So
And I mean, if you can't tour at a decent pace,
yeah.
then you have to do something else to supplement your income. You have to.
And that is exactly true with actually both of these bands. Neither
Right.
one of them, you know, tour that that much. You know,
Right,
when they
right.
do, they sell out. But
Yeah.
anyway, so
And this song was over in Europe,
well, a lot of it's over in Europe, but
unfortunately
yeah,
for
or,
us.
it's up north where these bands actually live. So
They'll do like 2 shows in America,
yeah,
and then go over to Europe in the
it's
summertime.
like California and Florida. And,
Yeah.
you know, whatever.
So,
But
anyway.
so yeah, anyway, so I don't know. It's kind of a neat idea. Man, I don't need one more thing to subscribe to though.
That's true.
So I'm a little hard pressed to buy into it. So
Yeah, man. Well, Crystal Well is dropping a new single January 15th.
oh, cool.
I've had the pleasure of early access to hearing it, and I can't play it on the show yet.
No.
I told him I'd wait until the next episode from this one, and it's really good. It's called Flame On. So make sure you go and you follow his Spotify account, whatever. I don't know if you can do it on Apple or not. But anyway, make sure you keep in touch with what he's doing. Go follow him on Instagram and all his different social medias, because he is dropping a couple of bars here and there from the song, and he's always dropping stuff in general. And he does a good job at keeping
He's kind
content.
of clumsy.
Yeah, he is clumsy,
Yeah.
but he keeps a lot of
I mean, very
content rolling
muscular,
all the time.
very physical guy. I mean, so have
The
you
way
seen
you're
some of his
squeezing your
videos?
hands is kind of
Sorry.
yeah.
Well,
this-
it's like barbells or dumbbells or something.
Anyway, so go check out Chris Noel, new single dropping on the
Yeah.
15th. And Mitch, man, talk about your new album that you're going to be dropping pretty soon in a couple months.
So this is technically my debut. It's not really my debut, but sorry, my headphones are kind of delaying. I'm about to take them off. But yeah, so I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I decided I wanted to make an album that was themed on the Star Wars stuff. So it's called Dreadhead Lando. Lando's a character that even people that kind of are into Star Wars don't even know who he is. And it's because he had like a minimal role in the originals. He's Han's friend. He's Han's friend, and he betrays them in episode 5, Empire, but then helps them in episode 6. And he's in the Solo movie. And the reason I decided to base it off him is because he's the only African American character in the originals, and I kind of resonate with that.
The token black guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I literally have a song on the project called Token Black.
Hey.
There you go.
Through a lot of my like childhood and younger years, I felt like that because I grew up in a white suburb, and I was like the only black kid in a lot of my classes all the way up until really late middle school, early high school.
See, I got a black friend. Yeah, it's
Honestly,
Mitch.
yep, I still get that. Because I went to NC State, so a lot of white people.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Have you not walked on the state campus before?
No, I've
Yeah.
never been to NC State.
Inside their athletics department.
Yeah.
It's like agriculture, which is
Yep.
like white.
A lot of engineering, a lot of agriculture.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
But the album's Star Wars based. It's 10 tracks. Some of them are directly referencing Star Wars places and storylines, and some of them are just kind of like themes that fit like the Star Wars universe. But I've had people listen to songs that don't know anything about Star Wars and they think it's cool, and other people that are into it as much as me and are like, "Oh, I caught that bar you said about something that no one else would get unless they're obsessed like you are." So.
Can we get a track listing?
Yeah, you can, because it's actually official now.
Okay.
So exclusive track listing. So first one's called Opening Crawl. And so any Star Wars fan knows that the movies start with a little opening crawl.
Do you know what that means, Jason?
No.
Oh,
so
man.
you know where it's describing what's taking place up to, before the movie starts and how the words are like
Yeah,
going
that's
off
what
of
that
this.
is.
I
It's
know
called
that
Crawl.
as in all the Star Wars films.
Yeah.
Okay, but
It's called the Opening Crawl. Yep.
Okay.
2 is Space Station. And that was one of the songs that doesn't reference a lot of Star Wars stuff, but it's kind of like, it's got a feel of space to kind of open up with.
Okay.
And that's featuring an artist named Liso. Then 3 is Cloud City. And I think y'all have heard that one. That features Wells and Matthew Campbell. And that's an actual reference to where Lando was like the head of an episode. Episode 5 is a place called Cloud City. And it's literally a city that like floats.
Okay.
That I'm guessing you don't know about.
No.
Why are you looking at me like that? You should just talk to Sean. I'm just here.
4 is Lovin' You featuring Zahil. And that song, so if you saw the Solo movie, you learned that Lando had a love interest that was a droid named L3.
Yeah.
And so it's a love song, but it's also from that perspective that it was a droid and not a person. But that's one of the songs I like a lot on there, especially getting Zay on there. 5 is Token Black, and it's kind of self-explanatory. 6 is Broken, and that's the opposite of Loving You, where in Solo, Lando loses L3, she like dies, so it's broken because he's broken, but also broken because heartbroken and she actually broke. 7 is Light Speed, which in Star Wars they go to hyperspace and go at light speed a lot, and that's the interlude. 8 is Greatness, and that's one of the more theme songs, just kind of about, I had 2 other guys featured on there, Jacquan and Young Jetti, spelled Jetti, and the cover art's actually me as Lando, Jacquan as Finn, the only black character in the what are they calling those, the sequels, and then Jetti is Mace from the prequels.
Nice.
So the only black characters we could really think of. 9 is
Gotta
Jedi
go
versus
digging to
Sith.
find them.
Yeah, honestly though. 9 is Jedi versus Sith, which is kind of like a final battle type of song where I kind of spit a ton of bars. And 10 is Cantina Celebration, which is a lot of the Star Wars movies end in like a celebration or like a medal or award ceremony or something.
Right.
So it's just kind of like the last track, a final like danceable type of track. So.
Let's see, I could have been your token white guy,
Right.
and I could have been like the original Jabba.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So yeah, well, so far you covered character from all the movies except for Rogue One,
Yeah.
where you could have had Saw.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
So, but
I
yeah,
didn't even think of. Oh man, that's
Bonus
bugging me.
track.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So, all right, well that's cool, man. I'm excited to hear it.
So there's your bonus track, Saw.
Saw. Yeah.
What you do is you pick the theme music from the Saw movie.
Oh my
I'm
god.
kidding.
Which one? There's like 12 of them.
Ew.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
yeah, man, we're actually going to be playing Greatness here during the break. But before that, Sean would like to share a dad joke.
Yeah, well, we started it. I still want some feedback from you guys. If you like this, if it's amusing to you, or if you're just like, dude, man, I bear through it, man. But if you feel like you gotta do it, let me know because I can stop. I don't have to find dad jokes. Okay, but anyway, all right, you guys ready?
Yes.
So why couldn't the bicycle stand by itself?
Why?
Because it was too tired. Get it?
That's
Too tired. It's too tired.
That's
Yes.
That's
All
true.
right.
All right.
And that's
Remember-
news to us.
Yeah, remember, if you're an artist out there listening to the show, you want to be considered for podcast play, send your music to Porch Podcast at gmail.com, and we'll give it a listen, and we'll pick the best one from the crop that we haven't chosen yet, and we'll play it on the show. And so, anyway, we're going to be right back with our Who versus Who, and so make sure you stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We're still getting a lot from the headphones.
Yeah. Let me see.
Yeah, I was gonna say we can get a blog on there.
Okay. I honestly feel like that's what's messing up on my mic.
Okay,
Hello,
well,
1 2 1 2 1
I'm
2.
gonna put
Yeah,
headphones.
it's aggravating. I think that's, I don't know if that's part of it. Like maybe there's feedback going from my phones to that, and so I don't know if the mixer is like doing something. I don't know what the deal is, but for some reason, again, when I have 3 mics going, I don't know if it's just a cheap mixer, and that's the problem. Like, I don't know. But anyway, so anybody need to take a break real quick or anything? You want to jump into it?
I'm good.
All right, cool deal. Alrighty, welcome back to the Porch Podcast. That was Greatness by
Yeah.
Mitch Darrell. And who's on that?
So it's me, Jacquan R, and Young Jetti, Jetti. And they're all
Alright.
both of them are really good lyricists, so I decided to add them on there.
So is he an actual Jedi?
No, he's not. Although he
Okay.
does. I feel like I picked him as Mace because he's kind of got that confidence. I feel like if Jedi were real, he might be one.
Has he got like the bald head?
He doesn't actually. He's got kind of dreads like me.
Well, that's awkward.
Mace, is that Samuel Jackson's
Yes,
character?
correct.
Look at that. Look at me.
Yeah, you
Becoming
got
the Star Wars
something.
expert. Look at that real quick. Anyway, so that's that. TrueStrengthPro.com. Head over there. Check out some gear. And this week we got our second Who versus Who. We did get feedback from the one last week, Cap, Batman, and people disagreed and thought Captain America should have won. But hey, it's our show. If you want to battle it out, come sit on the porch, which is actually an office.
Someone did bring up that the fact that Captain America has a lot of different fighting styles as well, but I think our argument there is that it's never really fully as illustrated as Batman's are. And so
Gotcha.
when it comes down to it, we know that Batman has a variety of fighting skills and abilities. So versus Captain America, which is really just I can punch and kick and something and take a punch and a kick. Now don't get me wrong. In the movies, was it Winter Soldier?
He had several good fight scenes in it. That movie was the best fight choreographed movie from all of it.
Definitely, but by far. But even if you took that and you took almost anything Batman, well, okay, not movies, but anything else that's Batman,
His life as a character.
right? Then he's I think there's no contest.
Yeah, he knows like 75 different karate styles and
Yeah.
martial art styles.
Martial arts. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's really no fight. If one-on-one hand combat, Batman would take out easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
So,
So anyway,
all right. So this week we have Rey versus Jyn. So to clarify, and actually our Patreon supporter. Is it okay to use his name on the show? I don't know if he's given
we'll
us
just call him
permission.
Sam.
Okay, so
We
Sam.
announced him at the beginning of the show, so.
Okay, so anyway, so Sam also wanted to make sure that we were clarifying that we're talking about Rey from Jakku in episode 7. So prior to her really discovering her Force abilities.
Oh wait, so Jakku Rey, Jakku is not the first name?
Honestly, I feel like that you thought that.
Jakku's the planet.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, is he keeps putting Jakku Rey, and I'm like, does he think that's the name?
Yeah, he probably did.
So many movies to watch.
I was like, that's a weird first name. I thought that was the name. I'm sorry, y'all.
No, that's not her name. So anyway, and we'll get to what Sam had to say, because he had some good comments.
I'll read his comments after y'all two finish battling it out.
Okay, so we're gonna draw names.
Yeah.
You got that ready for
I
us?
got it ready.
Okay.
Now, before we draw names, we need to clarify, give whatever kind of clarification you need to give beforehand.
Right.
Which I guess you kind of did.
Yeah, because Jakku Rey, I mean the
Big difference.
yeah, I mean that's there's really no force, but there's latent force abilities, but she doesn't really exhibit it, and she doesn't have any special.
So I'm going to hold up.
For her staff.
I'm going to hold up 2 pieces that are folded up. You can't see what's what. And I'll let you pick, since you're the guest, Mitch. You get to pick that one. So, Sean, you got that one?
I want to pick that one.
You can have it.
Nah, that's all right.
So, Mitch, who do you have?
Jyn, spelled incorrectly.
Spelled
incorrectly.
I had to do it. All right, so Sean is saying that Ray's going to win.
All right.
And Mitch is saying that Jen is going to win. So,
Yeah.
all right. So I guess we'll let Mitch. We'll let Mitch defend Jyn first, since he's the guest.
So, I mean, what you got, man?
It's so hard because, of course, Rogue One is one of the newer ones. I mean, she wasn't that established of a character since she had one movie. But I think she'd win because she was trained by Saw, and Saw he actually was a character before. What's his face played him? I just forgot. Dude in Rogue One played him. Yeah, Forrest Whitaker. He was a character in the Clone Wars, so he has a lot of abilities and training, and he trained her from a young age. So she's actually, plus she also had to deal with losing family, kind of being left, being pretty hardened, having to kind of do a lot on her own,
Oh, okay, you just described Rey.
I know, that's not, no. I feel like Rey only really has her staff. Like, if we're saying they don't even get weapons, which honestly we might have to say that because Jyn would probably use a gun.
Well, yeah.
And Rey would use her staff.
Yeah.
Wait, so Ray's got a whole staff of people? Yeah, that's nuts, man.
Yeah. Just to do those funny 3-bun thing that she got working on. Okay, so like I totally get what you're saying about Jyn, but even if you're saying that Rey has latent abilities, though.
Right.
There's still going to be some filtering that's going to come through that. So even if she doesn't understand how to use it, if Jin's like firing at her with a blaster, I think instinctively she's just going to take that staff and she's going to start blocking, volleys left and right. And eventually she's going to get one that's going to ricochet and come back and knock out Jyn. I mean, and it's just... she has that same background of, okay, well, I don't have parents, and I've kind of come up through the rough and tumble of life, and that sort of thing, having to fend for myself. But I think that's what makes them both equally, at least have that instinct to want to survive.
Right. The thing, sorry to cut you off. The thing about Rey is that she didn't have to really do any fighting until she left Jakku. The only thing really was beating up Finn. Which
or yelling
wasn't saying much, right? But other than that, she was just trying to get food, which I guess you have instincts. You're just trying to eat. That's what she was trying to do every day, was get enough money or get parts to sell to eat. But that was it. I don't feel like she may have it in if she really needed like fight or flight to maybe fight. But I feel like Jyn is more like she's been fighting. She knows about like fighting, and not just surviving. You know what I'm saying? Like not just trying to get food.
but couldn't you say though that even when you're talking about like even most martial arts, they show you how to defend yourself first, and that's still part of the fight is the defense mechanism.
Right.
And I think that's where Rey excels, because even if she's like climbing through the wreckage of a Star Destroyer, she has to have these this instinct of, okay, jump here or slide here, and that's something that just comes far more naturally for Rey. So even if Jyn's attacking, Rey is going to have that natural ability to be able to be more on the defense, to be able to avoid whatever attacks that Jyn is going to be able to put up, and then being able to then come back with even a minimal blow. And I mean, that long staff, that gives her some good reach. She can get in nice and close and, knock the blaster out. I don't know.
The thing about Jyn is that, well, we'll say the thing about Rey is that it's hard when we say Jakku Rey because she doesn't do anything really notable until, I guess you could maybe say the end of, once she's left, like, the planet. But there's a scene in Rogue One where Jyn takes out a ton of troopers, and so much so that it, like, surprises, like, the men that are with her, and, like, they think that she might need help, but she, like, takes them all out, and they're kind of, like, taken aback. And I feel like Rey doesn't do that. She shows more of that in 8 and at the end of 7, not on her home planet.
Yeah, and even what Rey exhibits at the end of 7 is still so raw and, clumsy.
Right.
We're going to go and transition in, I think.
To the final thoughts.
I'm going to have to say I would agree with you. I think Jyn would take out Rey. Yeah, I was trying to put up a good fight there, but no, I agree. There's actually stories. I mean, there's books that are written that precede Rogue One, and the training that Jyn had from Saw, I think that alone, you're already talking about that she was already a rebel, from an early age, and she was like leading groups of rebels at a time, and so I just can't discount that.
So
and Rey just didn't have any of that background on Jakku.
So do you really honestly feel like Jyn is actually the better fighter in this scenario?
I do, only because we made the clarification that it's Rey, and it has to be Rey pre-Force knowledge, and because if it's Rey, even Rey at the end of 7 or the beginning of 8, she's beating Jyn because she can use the Force like whatsoever, or she'll have a lightsaber. But just like two characters that are kind of don't have a lot of force, and like would be more just kind of like civilians, I guess.
Gotcha.
I feel like Jyn's got all the training and all the experience of fighting, and Rey was just trying to survive every single day.
Okay. Now, this was Sam's point, but he's going, I guess, off of Jakku. He says that he said, I'm solely focusing on Force Awakens, having no Jedi training. She could still pilot the Falcon, use mind control on the Stormtrooper, and best Kylo in a lightsaber battle. Despite having never used one, if you want to say before the Force comes into play regarding her training, that's fair. But we can't discount the raw power she already had. So that was his.
And that was the argument I was trying to make, is that, I mean, she had that raw power so that, she instinctively could have done some stuff, but I don't know. Jyn from an early age, I mean, she already had, like, a great number of years of experience fighting and doing guerrilla warfare, really, that I think just, kind of outdoes, right? So.
All of his points are kind of, it's funny because I listen to a ton of like reviews and like just stuff about the movies to get through work. Right. And people have been saying that they're disappointed with Rey's character because she's such a Mary Sue, which is really true after listening to a bunch of the stuff that she hasn't really had any training still, because Luke barely trained her in 8. Right. She had never touched a lightsaber, knew anything about the Force in 7, yet almost beat Kylo, who'd been training under Luke and under Snoke. But even they're saying that she has such raw power that she didn't know about, that she was able to basically beat him in a battle, and still without training in 8, basically kill all those the guards of Snoke. So it's just funny, like she hasn't really had to do much and already has all this ability.
Well, I just realized something. I forgot. I was actually going to record episode 7 because it started playing tonight at 5 o'clock.
Oh yeah.
On TV. And so after we finish this segment, I'll have to go hit the record. So.
Well, The other argument is, depending on where your thought is about the Force and how you use or obtain or whatever your perspective is on that, it's almost like a pre-trib, post-trib kind of argument in a way. But the way that the newer movies are portraying the Force is that the Force is just there. It's whether or not you are sensitive to it. And so Rey is just much more naturally sensitive to it, so she taps into more of it, as opposed to Kylo, who maybe has to work more toward tapping into it, even though he has a lot of raw potential, which obviously Luke says as well, which is what scared him, yada yada.
Right.
But
you know who I am in all these movies. I'm the guy that's sitting there, has no idea what's going on around him in the conversation. So I'm like the blind guy who's like, the Force is with me, I'm with the Force. The Force is with me, the Force is with me, the Force. I'm just sitting here, no idea what's going on. Funny. But I'm just walking around blind in this whole Star Wars conversation. Force is with me.
What's crazy to me is that there's a lot of overlap between superhero fans and Star Wars fans. So like, I'm not the biggest superhero fan, but like, I watch all of them because I have an interest. But you haven't watched the Star Wars movies.
No, I have watched them.
All of them?
Yeah.
I watched all of them.
How do you not know what's
He's borrowed them from me.
I don't understand.
Okay, so I watched the first 3 episodes.
Right.
Or episode 4, 5, and 6. I watched those before, like, 1 hit theaters.
Okay.
Okay, so that was a long time ago. Long time ago. And then I watched 1, not in theaters. I never actually watched episode 2 until I borrowed it from Sean, which I hated episode 2. I thought
a lot of people.
It's a lame love story. It was a love story.
Yeah.
That was it. And I actually, me personally, I liked episode 3.
I love 3.
To me, that's actually one of my favorites.
Okay.
So, people are going to argue and say, what, 4 and 5 or 5 and 6. Oh, no, I think 5 is the most popular one.
5, yeah.
5. And but... And then watching 7, I borrowed that from Sean. I watched that one. I watched Rogue One, again, borrowed it from Sean. And then Sean took me to go see 8 in theater. So that's the first theatrical experience I've had with Star Wars. And I enjoy them. I did think about buying them. Just, again, I'm a collector, so I like to collect movies. And so I thought about doing that, but I think you got to pay like $100 for all of them.
Yeah.
And I don't have an extra $100 to spend on movies I'm not a huge fan of.
6.
So
yeah.
Anyway, I think from what I remember from the movies, I was watching Rogue One last night, and I was like, I don't remember Rey like really kicking butt like that I can remember per se. Mm-hmm. And so I was actually thinking Jyn as well. And so not that my opinion matters because I'm not a Star Wars expert at all. And so the final decision has been made that
Jyn Erso.
In the fight between Jyn Erso and Rey on the Jakku planet,
Jakku
Rey, that Jyn Erso has won.
Yeah.
Alright, so that's it. That's it for Who versus Who. Again, give us some feedback on what you think. We appreciate the feedback online that we've been getting, so continue to do that. And we'll be right back to talk about forgiveness. Please forgive me for not being the #1 Star Wars fan in the room. But anyway, we'll be right back. I actually was going to go hit record on that because I was going to watch it tonight.
Actually, 4 and 5 came on last night. And I was up till about 3.
Oh, you watched
the rest of 5.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I meant to watch
and then they came on again today, and I think I left when 6 was on.
John, your daughter's awesome.
I had to argue with people over it. Who's a better rapper, Eminem and
Eminem,
It's not even
easy.
close. I keep
That's not
starting to
even
yell at
close.
people.
Why do people argue that?
Well, that
Like-
one kid who I don't know when he followed me, but he likes
Eminem.
every single thing I post.
I know what he's talking about. He does mine too.
Yes.
And I'm like,
Which is fine, I
last
guess. But I'm
night-
like, are you reading it? Yeah. Like he's like,
and then he followed Solomon Porch Podcast.
oh
and he went
man. Well, I remember he was like, how can Eminem be better than NF? He's not even a
I
Christian.
know,
I was
right?
like- I was like, he could be a devil worshiper.
Here's
He's
the
still
question.
better.
Here's the question. If Eminem and Yellow Wolf had not
Oh,
cussed,
man.
if they had not cussed on My Best Friend, would that be a Christian song?
I'm trying to think of that song. Do I have my phone?
If they had not cursed on the song, would people
You're
be
saying,
like,
would it be?
exactly?
Oh, I get what you're saying.
Because Eminem murdered that. So
Right.
I was like, yo, if he made a Christian hip hop album, this
That's
would
the
be-
thing. Like, if you're like, his argument was that he has to use a bunch of cuss words and bad like themes, but like he can rap about nothing and still be better at rapping.
And Joe Budden makes a point. He is the best rhymer.
Yeah,
period.
for sure. Yeah. His
Um,
artist-wise, I say that it's not hard to beat him at. Not that he's not good at writing songs, but like he's not the best creatively when it comes to albums and being an artist. Because like I think Kendrick's better at songwriting than M. Like M does a lot of his own hooks that are pretty basic. The songs don't usually mean a ton.
yeah.
It's more about his actual rhyming and rapping. But
Yeah.
artistry, maybe you could say NF could beat him one day. But
I would say I really don't know. I don't know. It's difficult. Yeah, if you could shut that.
it's definitely not close though with them.
Did you like my little setup there?
Yeah.
Just hit me.
The Joker.
Riding Batman's
That's
back.
funny.
Alright.
So I saw your dog put orange cream puffs in the kitchen.
Yeah.
She's awesome. Cool. So I think I finally got the vocals figured out. Finally, I think. I don't know.
Okay.
May or may not have. So. But anyway, so yeah. So I figured out how to lead into it. What are we playing? Let's see.
You said Where You Been by John Keith.
Oh yeah. You heard that?
I have not.
John Keith and Aaron Dews.
Mm-mm. I haven't listened to it.
Might let you hear it.
Yeah.
Alrighty, welcome back to the Solomon Porch Podcast. That was John Keith featuring Aaron Dews. Where You Been? Name of the song. So it's actually on his new album, Honey Blonde. Make sure you check it out. It's actually one of Ruslan's newer signees since John Gibbs and Belief left the label. He now has John Keith and Paul Russell, I think is his name. So go check that album out. It's pretty good. And yeah, man. So we got Mitch Darrell here on the show, and we're not going to talk about the full entire sermon, but he actually sent me. He preached a sermon a little while ago, and it's the one thing I do want to kind of say. And we're actually going to have a young preacher here sometime coming up soon, hopefully. But one of the things that I think is extremely important, and Mitch, I'd love to get your perspective as a young guy who just preached a sermon, is we need more opportunities for younger people to actually get in the pulpit.
Agree.
Because I feel like if you're trying to reach a younger generation, you need the younger generation to help reach the younger generation.
Right.
And so, is this the first sermon you ever preached?
It's not. So this is the second one. The last one I did was a year ago, last December actually.
Okay.
And this is the second time.
So is preaching something that you want to do, or is it just like opportunity popped up and you wanted to do it?
So when I was younger, my church did this thing where on certain Sundays, the men of the congregation could go forward and either pick a song they wanted to lead, or a verse they wanted to read, or maybe like give a short little like lesson. So when I was in maybe 9th, 10th grade, I used to take advantage of those and do little mini lessons that I'd write up, maybe like 5 minutes long with a little point. And I had fun doing that, and even members of my congregation, because I've been going to the same church since before I was born.
Gotcha.
And a lot of them, were encouraged by it and said that I should do it more, and some of them were even like, you should become a preacher, which I've never had the desire to. But as I matured and got older, I wanted to preach a full lesson, and we have a full-time preacher, but my church does a thing where on the months they have a 5th Sunday, somebody one of the men can choose to give a lesson to give our preacher a break and then new people an opportunity. So I decided to do one a year ago. I thought it went really well, and I wanted to, practice makes perfect. I wanted to I didn't want another year to pass without me doing it again. So I waited a year and prepared another one. Felt like I got better. So I want to maybe do 2 next year, or this year. And yeah, it's something I like doing. I don't think I want to be a full-time preacher, but I think it's good. It helps you a lot to study, to prepare a lesson, because you're having to really learn what you're about to teach. And yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about, I think Trip Lee is the exception because he actually wants to be a pastor, or he is a pastor, one or the other. But I do think even if you're doing music, you need to be able to kind of at least do a sermonette.
Yeah.
In a way. One of our favorite bands, Disciple, the lead singer, he preaches a mini sermon every time they do a concert. And this is a hard rock band.
Right.
And he preaches a sermon every time. That's the first time I ever heard somebody reference, like, I'm not a Christian, I'm a disciple of Christ.
Right.
So, but yeah, so, and actually most of my preaching opportunities always came on the Fifth Sunday experience. So I feel you on that. And so this particular one was on forgiveness, and you had shared that there was a personal thing that happened, and then you were talking about some scriptural things. So why did you decide to actually talk about forgiveness?
Right. For some reason, for me at least so far, it's been easier for me to give lessons on things that I know I need to hear myself, and then it's like I said, kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. So last year when I did it, I did one about like anxiety, because I've been going through taking medication and just learning what anxiety was and trying to not forget God when it comes to struggling with those things. And so for the past few months, I've been struggling with trying to forgive a couple of people in my life, and just forgiveness in general, and forgiving myself. And I decided, okay, well, I should study up on it and be able to give a lesson that I could use for myself as well as other people. And it's definitely something that I've had to go back and look at, even though it's only been like a week or 2 since I gave the lesson. But the points I made are ones that I think are universal. Like, even afterwards, members of the church were coming up to me saying that, it was perfect timing for me to give that lesson, and they needed to hear something like that. A woman even came forward and asked for prayers from the congregation, because she felt like she was having a hard time forgiving someone in her life, and it was holding her back in a way.
So Christmas just happened, so
right.
A lot of family get-togethers, a lot of forgiveness needs to take place.
Exactly, exactly, or not, or you end up not going somewhere because you can't forgive someone.
Right,
so,
true.
It's a lesson that I felt everybody can relate to it, because at some point, you either need to be forgiven, you either need to be forgiven, you want to forgive somebody, or feel like you can't forgive somebody, can't forgive yourself. We pray to God all the time to get forgiven for things that we've done. So it's just something that everybody can relate to.
Gotcha. And I think there's you forgive, but you don't forget. I don't think it's really possible to forget.
Right.
And so, it's being able to move on. What would if you had to give a suggestion to somebody, if they're struggling right now forgiving somebody, what would be your suggestion, like how to approach that as a person who is on the, I want to forgive somebody side, or I'm having a hard time forgiving somebody?
Right. Well, the first thing is, if somebody actually asks you for forgiveness, I feel like you have to try everything in your power to, like you said, you're not going to forget it, but to try to let go of that hatred or anger or whatever it is, because you don't always get that. There's a lot of times when people hurt you and they will never ask for forgiveness, or never even recognize that they've done you wrong. But it takes a lot for somebody to do you wrong and then to recognize it and to ask. It's humbling, for them to basically say, I'm asking you to let this go, or, forgive me, basically, but if they don't ask for your forgiveness, which is what my situation was and what makes it way harder, you have to think about how forgiveness isn't always, a lot of the times, just for yourself, not for them. So in forgiving them, it's not necessarily that you're helping them, it's that you're helping yourself, because then you don't have to stress about whatever it is that's bothering you, or whatever you're harboring. You're getting to that relief, I guess. You're getting it off your mind and heart. And at the end of the day, it ends up being better for you to not harbor those things.
Right. I think one of those, it's a popular saying. I've heard it a lot. I actually just saw it like last week or so. The saying of, not forgiving somebody is like drinking poison, expecting them to die from it. Is it forgiveness in us? It is forgiveness, right? You've heard that before. Right?
I've not heard that before.
I've never heard that before.
It makes sense. I don't know if I've heard it, but
okay,
it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially you're putting yourself in a prison that you wish somebody else was in.
Right.
I've heard a couple of different renditions of the saying, but essentially it's like, you staying mad at somebody forever and not getting over it, not letting it go, is you punishing yourself.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And because usually they've moved on.
Exactly. Yeah, they're not thinking about you anymore. No. You saying I'm not going to forgive you, they're not. They're going to keep living their life. Eventually, they're gonna forget about it, but you're going to be like.
Or they may even just be completely oblivious to it.
Yeah, that too.
That's true. A lot of times we're mad at people and they have no idea we're mad at them.
Yeah.
And then they'll come, they're like, what's the deal?
What's going on?
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because, Jesus forgave us for our sin before we ever sinned. And I think that's one of those things that's like, well, the forgiveness is available,
Right.
That's the reason for dying and rising. And so, and I think, you gave, I remember two of these. I'm trying to remember all three. I know you used one, Joseph, and I know that specifically because we had just covered that in our Bible study. And to me, that's one of the biggest, for me, it's one of my favorite examples of forgiveness. And, seeing that being sold into slavery, all the stuff that happened to him. And I'm very curious to know if he forgave Potiphar's wife. It didn't say specifically,
right?
But yeah, man. So if you're on the side of, I think one of the hard things is if you're a person who is, who somebody says you've wronged them, but you don't feel like you've wronged them,
right?
What are your thoughts on how you would address that situation? Because if somebody tells me, well, you were wrong for doing such and such, such and such.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I really wasn't wrong for doing that. X, Y, Z's reasons why I could have, should have, did it. What were your thoughts? Because I think for anybody who's needing to get forgiveness, it's kind of easy to address. You just ask for forgiveness.
Right.
But in the other case, if you feel like you don't really have to forgive somebody, what do you think somebody should do in that situation?
So you're saying you feel like you shouldn't have to apologize to someone, or feel
right?
Like
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, I've learned that it's basically not always up to you whether you were wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like with your morals and what you feel like your intentions were, what you've done, you may fully, and I've been in situations like this, you may fully feel like you didn't do anything wrong, and they have no reason to be upset with you. But people are wired different, and so somebody may really feel like your intentions were this, or that you may not necessarily owe them an apology, but I feel like at the end of the day, it'd be best to not necessarily say I'm sorry for something you're not, but kind of try to explain yourself, try to like mend the relationship and say you're sorry for it making them feel that way, without saying it sarcastically. But I've definitely been in situations where it's like, I really don't understand why you're frustrated with me or why you're so mad or demanding an apology. But I think if you keep refusing to or come at them that way, it'll make it worse, So it could be best to just kind of like suck up your pride and kind of apologize anyway.
It's funny, as soon as I asked you that, two examples came in my head. Two examples. One of them is probably really well known, and the other one could be a generic. One, Megyn Kelly was caught up in a big twist a little while ago because there was an issue with blackface around Halloween, and there was a lady who dressed up as a black woman, I think for Halloween, painted herself black, And in the past couple of years, there's been a lot of talk about that. Like, hey, if you're a white person, you shouldn't dress up and paint yourself black, especially for Halloween.
Right.
So that's one where I'm thinking, because she, I can't remember what show she was on, if it was her show or another show, but she was like, she really had no idea what the issue was. She was like, when somebody wants to celebrate Rosa Parks, what's the problem with it? And I was thinking, us, like, I don't know, I guess there's not quite as much as men versus women issue as it is white versus black nowadays in terms of not understanding. But in that situation, though, you got to understand, I don't know what it's like to be on the other side of that. A white person's never going to be black. They're never going to, their family history is never going to be the same as another person's family history. And so I think, that's one of the examples. But even as, Christians, as we are in this room, and I think most of the people that listen to the show. But like, for example, whenever there was a video I saw on Facebook, and a lot of people were kind of laughing, joking about it. Other people were really sensitive of it. There was a very manly looking man who was dressed in pink garb, and the cashier referred to, the person as a him or sir or something like that, and this person flipped out. Mm-hmm. And, people were kind of laughing about it, and they were like, hey, I don't understand, this is funny. They're like, why is that funny? And I'll be dead honest, I literally thought, first watching it, I thought it was a spoof video. I thought the man dressed up as a woman and went into the store, and I thought it was a spoof video until I watched it like a second time, and I was like, that dude really is, or that person, whatever, really is mad. And so I guess as a Christian, it's I think it's important for us to understand, like, if you were in that situation, you were in the cashier situation, that cashier's like, well, my whole life, I've known this as a man, as a he, pronoun, whatever. I guess one of the questions that I would ask is, like, how should we address a situation like that if somebody comes up to you, you recognize them, biologically male, that's a he, they flip out on you because it's a she. How do you how
do we get to there from forgiveness?
well, because like they get mad at you because you said, or you addressed me by the wrong pronoun, and you're feeling like, well, no, that's the right pronoun.
Right.
And are you supposed to apologize and go with the right pronoun, or because you really feel like, no, this is like really out, truth is this.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to call you that. And so in a way, it's still kind of like, well, I shouldn't have to forgive or ask for forgiveness for calling you the wrong pronoun. I'm not trying to turn this into a whole situation like that, but in general, though, there's a lot of cases today where we don't know we've offended somebody, whether it's a racial thing, whether it's a LGBT thing. There's a lot of situations where I don't understand what's offensive about that.
Well, I mean, even like with the Kevin Hart thing. So, he tweeted some stuff that he now looks back and he says was, ignorant. Lack of him understanding the LGBTQ community, and he's apologized. And at first he didn't feel like he needed to apologize, but now he's apologized. Now he's apologized on Ellen, and even Ellen has said, hey, I think you should still host the Grammys, Oscars, and which I thought was kind of classy of her. I mean, she was real cool with them, and. But evidently, like, some of whatever it was that he was posting was not about just in general. It was like black LGBTQ, and so there are people that are black and in that community that are like hey, Ellen doesn't represent me. I still got beef with the guy. So he apologizes. I mean, why is he apologizing to Ellen? Did he offend Ellen?
You asked the wrong one, man.
I don't know. I mean, isn't that kind of what you're saying, though?
Right.
Is that, so who are you apologizing to, and for what? I think ultimately what Kevin's doing is he's saying, look, I don't mean to hurt anybody. I don't mean to be belligerent toward anyone. I don't mean to purposely offend you. Okay? So take it for my ignorance if that's what you want to see it as, or whatever, but I'm sorry that you're upset by what I've said. That wasn't my intent.
Right.
So I think in that scenario that's really what that is. My intent is not to offend you. You look kind of like a girl, but maybe you're a dude, but I'm not real sure. Your name tag says Sandy on it.
Right.
So, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah. I definitely think it's a lot of it's about intent. So, like for me, I try not to ever offend anyone. Because I mean, a lot of people aren't trying to go around offending people. You just might not know. But like once you do know, I feel like it's either best to like either steer clear from like conversation with that person or like know what they prefer and try your best to make them comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Because even if you don't agree, like I don't think it's gonna hurt me to call someone what they want to be called. You know what I'm saying? Like if someone that I would personally say, oh, I think you're born a man wants to be referred to as she. It really is going to take no extra effort for me to just either not talk to them or go she. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And if you do happen to offend them, you can apologize, say that wasn't your intent. It's just being genuine and kind of really being honest about your intentions. Because at the end of the day, you and God know what you were trying to do. Intentions are, a lot of people say it doesn't matter what your intentions were, it's about what the result was. But I think intentions are important because if you purposefully are trying to offend someone or purposefully are homophobic or against that person, then God will know that, and you have like a hateful heart toward this group of people. But if you're just making mistakes and you hurt someone's feelings, you can apologize and mean it.
Yeah.
The only people you can purposely really offend is Pharisees, right? Isn't that what Jesus said?
Is that what he said?
That's what he did. That's what he did. No, but I mean, I think one of the things for me, I love to challenge people. I'm a very challenging person.
Yes, you are.
I recorded a video earlier. It's a kind of a topic where I was thinking about doing tonight on the show, but I don't think it would have been long enough. But essentially, I was saying that a lot of needs for asking God for miracles is really due to our lack of management. And if we managed everything God gave us better, we wouldn't need all these miracles we beg for all the time. And so I feel like it's a very true statement, but people would be offended by it. So do I apologize for offending people by that? Or do I just let them hear it, and if they get mad, they get mad? Like, I know it's going to offend people. I mean, there's truths in Scripture that's going to offend people.
Yeah.
Like, how do you dance around that? Do you just...
Yeah, but you're talking about like you're purposefully trying to put something out there, and that's where that's Holy Spirit led versus I've gone to McDonald's and I've said thank you, ma'am, to the guy behind the counter.
Right.
Yeah, well, and I think for me, the reason why I do it, like I said, I like to let people think about things in their life, from a truthful perspective. Even though I know people might get upset about it, but I feel like they still need to hear it. And most pastors do that.
So you're saying that you should purposely tell the person in transition, thank you, sir, even though it's someone transitioning to be a female. Because they need to be thinking about it.
I don't...
So is that where you're going with this?
Well, no, I was more talking about the miracle management part.
Yeah, I know. We're talking about forgiveness, though.
I know.
That's what the show notes said. It said forgiveness.
But then we got to talking about offending people.
But it says forgiveness.
It does.
On the show notes.
It does. So anyway,
yeah. Anyway.
We got our rabbit holes on this show.
I
This
know
is a
you
rabbit
do.
hole show,
Yes,
Alice
you do.
in Wonderland.
Yes, you do.
So anyway, but kind of back to original thing or the question I was asking. So in terms of, do you feel like a person, if they offend somebody, they feel like, I mean, do you think that people are kind of required to give forgiveness in that situation? I mean,
Required to forgive you or to
no.
Or to
For you to ask for forgiveness.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, if you feel like you've done absolutely nothing wrong, do you?
I don't feel like it's required. I feel like speaking like for me, I don't want to, especially in that situation. I just don't want to offend it because say that there's people I see on Twitter a lot that are like, yo, like if I think you're a man, you're a man. That's what it is. Like if I think you're a woman, you're a woman. That's how it's gonna be. That's how. And they'll say, they're Christians. That's why. But I feel like that is where a lot of people will say, well, Christians aren't, what they are cracked up to be, or what they say they're supposed to be, because they're fine just offending people when it's not necessary. I mean, I don't agree. They'll say I don't agree, but it's not just like I forgot the exact. I know it was circumcision, like being circumcised, not necessarily because it's because you had to, but because it would help you to associate with the people you're about to teach. Kind of like it's not necessary for me to try to call you what you'd like to be called, but I'm going to do so because I don't want to offend you. I can maybe reach you that way rather than if I'm offending you from jump because I'm calling you something you don't want to be called. I have zero chance at convincing you of anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that really makes and that's kind of what I was thinking was if you purposely offend somebody, or even if you accidentally offend somebody, they're just going to shut their ears to you. Period.
Right.
Period. And I think that's kind of some of the issues we have, in politics in general. Like, they really don't care if you, I mean, they're going to say what they want to say. They don't really care if you really hear them. I mean, they're like, look, I'm going to say what I want to say, period. I don't really care if you, they don't make an attempt to make you want to hear them out.
Right.
I guess what I'm saying.
Well, and there's this again that's deliberate, and versus, and I'll go back to the example that we're using. We're talking about to a degree there's this ingrained behavior that we have, okay, and that's true in lots of different things that we do and that we experience in life. So whether I'm taught it socially or whether I'm taught it specifically in school, so taught in school, I'm supposed to say yes ma'am, no ma'am. Well, isn't it just better to say thank you or no and yes and please? At this point in time, I mean socially.
Yeah.
So when I go to McDonald's, my habit is that once the person hands me food, it's oh thank you ma'am.
Yeah. And
Well, I'm not a woman.
Right.
Oh, just say thank you. What's wrong with that? But it's because it's ingrained in me to be able to do that. And so I have to try to overcome that. And, but this person doesn't know that. So you've offended them. But you can't worry about that. You can't go through life with that. You can apologize and say, I'm terribly sorry.
It says if you're in the Bible Belt, you're going to have to get over the whole ma'am, sir thing.
Yeah,
on the receiving end of
yeah.
it, somebody's going to call you ma'am or sir. In the Bible Belt.
I've been called the opposite before.
So.
Somebody has said yes ma'am to me before.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, not like they're looking at me.
Right,
It was just it was a slip.
Right,
You
okay,
know what I'm
okay.
saying?
Yeah,
But still, people get worked up over that.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, get off of it. But I think that's the other part is that there's that fine line between I'm trying to make a difference socially versus I just need to get over some of my personal hang-ups. Okay? Now I think there's a fine line there because then we're talking about equality, we're talking about justices.
Right.
Because how easy is it for you to start hearing white America say, oh, y'all black folks just need to get over it. The cops aren't really, no, yeah, they really are, just saying, right?
It's definitely being said.
But there are some things that, we need to not be as, worked up over. You're in the South and somebody says ma'am to you. Okay,
Right.
But you also have to understand, you're transitioning, people are still learning.
Exactly.
It's going to happen. So.
I gotta say, for me personally, if I feel like if I offended somebody, I immediately ask for forgiveness.
Right.
Even if I don't understand the offense, like it happens at work sometimes where somebody might be upset that I did or didn't do something or whatever. I'm like, look, I apologize. I thought I was trying to help. because I like to help people in X, Y, Z, and I'm real quick to ask for forgiveness. I really am, and I think that's why my marriage has been so great. It's because I always ask for forgiveness all the time.
Well, but then it can also come across as trite and like you didn't really. You're apologizing. You don't even know why you're apologizing to me.
I don't apologize.
You're just apologizing to apologize to me.
I want to apologize in that way.
You need to know what it is that you've done to me.
All right, Sean. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the trash
If
talk.
you can't say I am sorry for having done this, and this to you, then don't apologize to me. That's just lip service, son. My daughter gives me that.
I don't give any guy lip service. Sorry, Dad. I don't give any guy lip service.
So, but the point is that you know,
None.
I think that there still has to be a level of recognition of what it is, perhaps, that you've done. And so some of that may have to take place of, I'm sorry that I've offended you. Can you please tell me what it is that's, going on?
Offended, yeah.
Well, I think for me, I apologize. I don't have to understand why they were offended. Like, I'm not going to sit there and try to get them to break down the whole entire situation. I'm the type of person, oh, this offended you. I apologize. I didn't mean to offend you. That wasn't my goal. Because a lot of people's goal is to offend people. Like, that's just their goal. They walk around.
Why are you looking at me when you say that?
Because there's two people in here, and my angling is easier to look at you. So when I look at this, I have to turn my body a lot harder. So, but anyway, I feel like this is my feelings. I feel like
he was just avoiding you, Mitch.
Right.
One, Jesus would never want us to offend somebody on purpose without there being
necessary.
And that's what you said earlier. You said unnecessarily offend somebody.
Right.
Again, with like a sermon, I think at a point in time you kind of have to offend people.
Yeah, that's very true.
But again, that would be spirit-led, though. When you say,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of petty or personal.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Like telling somebody, hey, look, stop begging God for money when you're terrible with your money. That you're going to offend some people,
Right.
but it's necessary.
Yeah.
It's necessary for them. Because they need to do better with money. I need to do better with money. If I'm in debt, I need somebody to tell me that. If I'm being a bad...
That's why I don't lend you any money.
That's good. Because at that point, it'll be a gift.
Right.
So it's just a gift at that point. But
it'd be me mishandling my money.
Anyway, and the point is, if you loan me money, I didn't pay you back, you'd forgive me. And so there you go. That's the lesson for today. That's the lesson. So forgiveness, man. Forgive somebody. Forgive somebody today.
Let it go.
Let it go. Yeah. Speaking of which, Frozen 2 is coming out this year.
And speaking of Frozen 2, they're saying that, was it Elsa's supposed to be part of the LGBT community?
Oh,
That's
really?
what they've been saying. I don't know if that's for sure yet, but I know that they've been talking about it. So it all ties back together in Frozen 2.
There you go.
All right.
Hey, you gotta train them up in the way they
Yeah.
Anyway, so we want to thank
That's
our
it.
sponsors,
We want to thank our
Genesis
sponsors.
Pro Design. And
GenesisProDesign.com. Any design work you need, logo or a t-shirt, album cover, book cover, website, all of that good stuff. Hit up GenesisProDesigns.com. Shout out to Sam for being our first Patreon supporter.
Thank you.
Your comics will be shipped out to you on Monday, hopefully.
Yeah, we've got two number one issues.
We've got
sending out
two number one annual issues. And for any of you who don't know what an annual is, it's a full kind of story in one book. So in most comics, if you buy an issue, you got to buy several to complete the story. In this case, it's one and done.
Story in that book, yeah.
And
they're handpicked from us.
They are. They're handpicked.
We specifically selected stuff that we liked, and so we're sending that to you.
Yeah, we spent money on this. Yeah,
we actually did.
There you go. Yeah, man. And there's also gonna be a little extra special treat for you. I'm not gonna tell you what it is. You have to find out when you get it in the mail. And anyway,
I'm telling you, dude, the ice cream's gonna melt by the time it gets to them.
So that's it, Mitch. We appreciate you being on the show, man.
Appreciate y'all.
Great conversation. I'm looking forward to the album.
Yeah,
I'm gonna try to. My goal is to watch all the Star Wars movies
again
before the album comes out. That's
see
my goal.
See if you can pick anything out.
I probably won't pick out.
There's so many references, man.
Sean's gonna listen to it. That's what you should do. Like Sean should listen to it and see if he can pick them all out and get you back on the show to see if he picks them all out.
And see if I missed anything.
Right.
All right.
That's what we need to do. But yeah, man, we appreciate you being here, man.
Absolutely.
And we're going to end out the song this week with Eve Looks Back.
Yep. It's by Apologetix. It's a parody of Landslide by Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, man. So that's it for the show. We'll be back in a couple weeks. And make sure you go check out the website, SolomonSportsPodcast.com. We've had a couple of different guest posts. Chicken George put something up there. We had Kenny. He did a Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse review up there. So go check that out and support those guest posts. If you want to be a contributor for the website and any type of written content, let us know. We'd love to have you on board. And until next time, remember, that Jesus loves you way more than we do.
Amen.
All right. That was fun.
Yeah, it was.
That was good. So we're definitely going to have to, which hopefully will be able to come up before then, but after episode 9,
Oh yeah.
they're going to have to come
I don't know
back.
if I can wait till December.
What we'll have to do is we'll have to get, that'll probably need to be a one shot. We'll just have to get the Star Wars episode 9 review. You want to open that door? Just for a second. Then we y'all can talk about it kind of in detail.
I have a bad feeling I'm gonna be disappointed.
Really?
You got a bad feeling about this?
because 8 didn't like. You know how 4, 5, and 6 was set up? Like, this was 7 did a good setup. 8 didn't give us much of anything at all. So 9's gonna have to be super long and not gonna answer all my questions.
Because 9 is ending. I know it's ending Rey's story. Like they said that this is her last film.
Yeah.
Well, she said this is her last film.
Ending her story. They better not do it. Someone was like, "You think they might do like 2 parts?" I was like, "They're gonna lose every fan if they cut it into 2 parts without telling us."
9.1, 9.2?
I don't know.
Or
Because what was it?
9.9.
There was one series I saw where they were like, "This will be the last film," and then it was like part 2 coming. I was like, "What?
Harry Potter?
This is supposed to be the end."
Yeah, I think that if I think either way, there's some things that we're going to have to accept. They're
Yeah.
just going to be the way that they are. They didn't execute quite as well as they could have or that they should have, and it's you're gonna have to enjoy it for what it is. It's like a DC movie.
Right?
You're gonna have to enjoy it for what it is.
You see Aquaman, so I can compare it to Wonder Woman, because Wonder Woman's my favorite DC
Right, mine too.
movie.
I'm sure there's people that disagree with